Blue zones. What are they? What are they about? Do they even matter? Welcome to Talking with Docs. I'm Dr. Brad Wayne.
I'm Dr. Paul Zalza. Blue zones, where everybody's sad all the time?
No.
Blue zones, where everybody vote Democrats?
No.
Blue zones, where the Smurfs live?
No. Blue zones, where they have a higher percentage than normal of older people, particularly centenarians, people that live greater than 100.
Centenarians.
Yes.
They're the ones with 100 legs?
No, that's centipedes.
Right. Centenarians, people who live to 100. Congratulations if you're one of them and you're watching this channel.
And we talk a lot on our channel about the difference between lifespan and health span. And these are not people that are just getting there, but they're like thriving right till the end. And there's a guy named Dan Buettner in 2005, started this little project, a 20-year project. He worked for National Geographic.
Journalist.
Went all around the world. And originally he did some bike, he biked across the world, broke some world records, got on Letterman, that kind of thing. Yeah. He started seeing that there were these little pockets in the world of people who were seemingly outliving other people. And he wanted to say, is there anything unique about them and anything that's maybe transferable to other people? A little longer.
Screaming Netflix special.
And it was.
And it became a Netflix, and it's a good show. I mean, I watched the series. I recommend it.
Yeah. How to Live to 100 on Netflix. In 2023 it was released.
Yes, and so there's these areas in the world where people are just living longer life expectancy. And ironically, a lot of those areas aren't very financially independent areas. It's not where there's a lot of money, which is one of the social determinants of health, is your sort of financial situation. Usually, well, we know from the literature that if you have more money, you live healthier.
Yes.
That's sort of one of the facts that we found. That's why people in developing countries may not have as long a lifespan.
Right.
But these areas sort of break that rule.
Right. And these are not the only areas. So the first thing is there are probably other blue zones. These just happen to be the 5 that he focused on. So don't get angry and say, well, what about this place? What about this place? There are other areas that have similar success.
Right.
But these are the 5 that he focused on. So he focused on, let's go through, what are they?
And what I would say is it's not just the geography of these areas.
No.
What we're trying to do is learn from these areas so we can take some aspects of these areas and apply them to our lives.
Yeah, how do they live? How can we live like them so that we can live healthier, really more importantly, and then subsequently longer?
Right, and so he focused on 5 areas.
Yes. Okay, so number 1.
Okinawa,
Japan. Yep. Number 2.
Sardinia.
Yeah, Sardinia in Italy. Yeah, number 3.
Somewhere off the coast of Greece.
Ikaria, so one of the 227 inhabited islands off the coast of Greece.
Yeah, and then there was
Nicoya.
Yeah, that was
coastal Costa Rica.
Yes.
And then the last one, which is a little bit of a dark horse, Loma Linda, California.
Right, California, because one of these doesn't belong. That's one of them that doesn't belong.
That's right. And you're like, what the heck? It's in North America. It's 2 hours from LA. What's going on here?
It's not in that sort of remote village lifestyle that we thought was part of it.
Right. And the reason that it was called Blue Zones, you probably picked that up from the video series there, where when they're in Italy, the guy was, one of the Italian guys, a researcher there, was marking little blue areas on a map, and they became so concentrated, made this big blue blob, and he's like, oh, it's like a blue zone.
Blue zone. Good thing he didn't have a magenta marker, or these would be magenta zones.
Yeah.
So the color doesn't really matter.
The color is not so
But there are some elements of these areas that are in common.
Right, the common themes that kind of rose to the top, and that Dan Buettner during the videos is like, okay, well look, these people all kind of do this, and they all kind of do this. So then really broke it down into 4 main principles.
Right, and so instead of having to watch the 4 episodes, you can just watch Talking with Docs right now and get them.
One thing that I would say is, as I was watching, and I think the first time I watched it, we hadn't really talked about it yet, but now rewatching it, they're very similar to our pillars of health that we talked about. Not our pillars of health, the pillars of health.
Yeah. And that is in keeping with the theme that people don't need to be taught as much as they need to be reminded. That's definitely the way I live.
Yeah.
I mean, I need to be reminded a bunch of stuff because I forget stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So, and of course, these pillars of health are going to come up again in these themes, but let's go through it. They're a little bit more customized to these blue zones. So, what are those 4 main elements? You can guess. You're probably trying to guess them right now. Okay.
So number 1 is based around food, and it's kind of a more global concept of eat wisely.
Yeah.
So what does this look like?
Eat wisely means what you eat and how much you eat.
Right.
Okay. And of course, as we said before, as a lot of different people have said, if you move to a plant-based diet, the more you can move to a plant-based diet, the wiser you are eating.
Right.
That's just been shown over and over and over again.
And so it doesn't necessarily have to be 100%. Like a lot of these places, due to access or financial means, maybe 1% or 2% of their calories were from animal products, but the vast majority were plants.
Right, as opposed to like 15, 17, 18%.
Or even higher, yeah.
Well, most of these places were near water.
Yes.
Right? And so I think a lot of the food came from the water as well.
Sure.
So that's sort of where that Mediterranean diet comes in.
Yep, absolutely.
With the fish and the chicken instead of the red meat kind of thing.
Yeah, and on the plant side, like fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes. And we've talked about this before, all of the natural pairings of things like rice and beans to make a complete protein profile.
Yes.
You know, the three sisters, they talk about squash and corn.
Beans.
Yeah, and the way that they're grown,
Yeah.
just they complement each other.
Okay, so that's what you eat and how much you eat, okay?
Yeah, how much you eat, the Japanese actually have a term for it, where you eat 80%
To
full.
80% full.
Right, so you stop before you get totally full so that you're satiated, but you don't overeat.
And then you have room for the chocolate cake and the dessert, right? Is that what it's for?
No. And in these places, unprocessed food, like no highly processed foods, right? No fast food.
Yeah.
And eating is a time of relaxation and socialization. It's a whole thing. Eating is much more, it's more for fuel.
Yeah, and the sad part about it is these blue zones are shrinking and disappearing. And I think it's largely because of the infiltration of processed food, fast food, and all that.
That's what he said, to the point where Okinawa, Japan, so they typically did not have any obesity, right? No. And the other thing we talked about, or the videos talked about, is reduced incidence of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, cancer, all these things which help you live longer. But a big part of that because of what you ate. But now this is changing and to the point where in Okinawa, they're saying maybe it's one of the heaviest or the highest incidence of obesity over the last 20 years because of, it's like you introduce someone to like fast food for their first time and they're like, holy wow, I didn't have
fast
to cook
food
it.
Addict.
Yeah, it tastes so good. It feels you overeat, so many calories, whatever.
So the pendulum has swung in that blue zone. All right, the next one after eating wisely is move naturally, okay? And we've kind of alluded to this before. That's an unnatural movement. Don't ever do that one again, unless there's a Devo song playing.
I like it. Whip it.
So move naturally. So we, many of us try and go to the gym and all the rest of it, and we make a point of exercising. But the point here is, instead of just making a point of going to exercise, incorporate movement into your life.
You know, Paul, that's pretty neat. A little segue here.
Hey, I like that.
So there's a term, NEAT, capital NEAT, and it stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So this is, we've talked about this before, your caloric balance relates to what you consume as well as what you expend. So NEAT is a way that you expend calories throughout the day, not doing exercise specifically, but burning calories, just living your life, not being sedentary, not sitting on the couch or at your desk or in your car or on your phone.
Exactly, and in these blue zones, a lot of times the natural movements are things like based on the fact that they live in a hilly area.
Yep.
So as soon as you walk out of your house, you got to go up a hill to get to the main road.
Right.
The church is situated on top of a hill, so you're just going to church every day and you're going up and down a hill.
You got to go harvest your food.
Harvest your food, prepare your food, grind your corn, whatever you're doing. So those people are moving naturally.
Wash your dishes, maybe do your laundry down at the river, who knows?
Yeah.
Like all those things that we've modernized.
Yeah. Move in a van down by the river, for example. Chris Farley.
In a van down by the river.
So
Love it.
Just that move. So, but how can we do that here, right? In our lives. So the kind of things we do here, use the stairs instead of the elevator if you can. Walk somewhere.
Park a little further away from the store. Like sometimes do that on purpose. You have to walk a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I tell people when they're saying, I can't get to my physio. Can I have physio come into my house after surgery? I'm like, no, because the act of getting to your appointment, your physiotherapy or physical therapist appointment, the act of getting to that appointment is part of your physical therapy, right? Yep. Same idea, is incorporating it into your life so you have more movement. And that's why we're standing for this video instead of sitting today.
Great. Okay. Number three is connect. Stay connected. We've talked about how there's an isolation epidemic throughout the world, and this is very bad for our health. Some studies estimate that being isolated can reduce your lifespan by even up to 7 years.
Yeah.
So being alone is not good for you.
Got to get yourself connected.
And so how can you get connected?
Right,
how are these blue zones being connected?
The blue zones get connected through things like their faith, right?
Yep.
So there's services that you got to go to, and so you're in a group setting.
Right.
Some of them set up their own little groups to help each other in case someone needs help.
Right.
They set up these, they're like financially and time commitments where they're just a little group of people or a larger group of people. So if someone falls ill or can't harvest their food, the rest of the group kicks in.
Yeah.
These are the kind of connectivity things that you can do.
And staying connected with your family.
Yeah.
You know, honoring the elderly, and families are very, very tightly knit. Younger people take care of older people. They see them as the wise resources that they are.
Yes, I love that. They were showing how, whereas a lot of North American attitudes are elderly go into some kind of nursing home or something like that to be cared for, whereas in these zones it's more like the elderly people are kept in the home and the family's taking care of them or friends are taking care of them.
Yes.
And you always think of that as a one-way street. Oh, I'm doing everything for this elderly person.
Yeah.
However, it's a two-way street, as you said, because they can pass on their wisdom to you.
Yeah, honor the elderly for sure.
Is volunteering falling under connectivity or more the next one?
I think it's a little bit both, because that can be a community. But even particularly like in Loma Linda, they have like organized exercise classes. They have like a pickleball community, which I'm actually living right now. I just embraced pickleball last month with my wife, and I have Achilles tendonitis because I played so much pickleball last week.
Yeah.
But there are a lot. They ask, why does this matter? Well, like a bunch of older people who are happy to see each other. You're dependent on each other to play the game. There's laughing. There's yelling. They're like a bunch of teenagers almost. And I tell you, when we played pickleball last week, this is real. Yeah. You don't go in the world and see a lot of happy, smiling people nowadays. Yeah. And on the pickleball court, that's happening.
Shiny, happy people. All right, what I'm saying about it.
There you go.
Now, we've mentioned this before as a pillar, and we've gotten comments before where people are like, well, I just like to be alone. What do you think of that? Like, but I mean, if you're the type of person that, I mean, these are guidelines, this isn't a recipe for everyone to follow. If you are more of a person who is happier alone, and that works for you, that's fine. Or maybe you get your connectivity through social media, watching Talking with Docs, or something like that. I think that's fine. We're just saying in general, these blue zones is what we saw or what they saw in these blue zones. So you may not love to be around a bunch of people. You may have one or two close friends, then that's enough for you. And that's fine, that's fine. We've had comments before about that. And I think if that's your thing, that's what makes you tick, that's fine.
I think it's a choice. I think unfortunately, science shows that it's not very good for your health. Yeah. And I think some of it maybe is just finding your people. Kind of thing, you know what? You say, well, I don't want to go play pickleball. I'm like, get it, not for everybody. And some people say, well, I don't want to go to church.
Book
get
club,
that too.
try your book club,
whatever.
Yeah,
maybe a wine club, whatever. But yes, like whether it's a walking group, whether it's someone that goes and films birds or flowers or whatever. Okay. I think you have to find your group.
So you got to get yourself connected.
Okay, last one.
This one's a little more vague. Okay, I'm going to say, but it has to do with your outlook. Okay, your outlook on life. Okay, and that can be something through like your faith. Or it doesn't have to be a religious thing. Volunteering or some sort of spirituality that you may find yourself in that's not necessarily a religious type of thing. Whatever it is, you want to find a purpose, right? Right. A reason to get up in the morning. You're doing something. You think of yourself in such a way that you have a purpose, and that's what keeps you going. Yeah. And somehow that is one of the common elements they found in these blue zones.
And the studies have shown too that like when people retire, sometimes it's bad for your health, right? You have a purpose, and now you wake up and you're like, oh, what am I going to do today? And before you felt like you were doing something good, you were contributing to society, like you had a role. Yeah. And so when you take that away from people, it's hard on their health.
And that's basically what they found in this series, the Blue Zone series. If you're going to watch it on Netflix, it was basically eat wisely, move naturally, connect, and watch your outlook. However, after I saw it, before they gave us that summary, I was summarizing, and I kind of thought of it as...
this is Zal's Blue Zones.
It's be careful of what you consume.
Okay, so where's chicken wing fall?
Chicken wing is right in there because it goes through all the gamut.
Just every now and then you get
it helps me spiritually. It helps me connect because I'm eating chicken wings with friends right across all zones there. Okay. That's the chicken wing zone. I'm working on it. Sure. It's not ready for publication yet. Okay. So it's what you consume, how much you consume, how much you move, who you know, and what you know. Right. Those are the things.
So. And the who you know we've talked about before, right? You know, it's you become the average of, say, the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And if those people are exercising, you're going to become fit. And if you eat healthy, you're going to eat healthy. If they're drinkers or smokers or gamblers or whatever, if they have dangerous behaviors, that's going to contribute to you.
I used to talk real slowly, but now since I've been hanging around with Brad, I talk really fast. I don't know what it is. It's just because I hang around with him.
You have to talk fast and loud. That's so
It's coming next.
That's so mean.
It's
mean.
true. It's not mean.
So mean to me.
It's a joke. It's
What
a joke.
bully. See the comment. I think Dr. Zaldo's bullying me right now.
That's not bullying, is it?
No.
So it's what you consume, how much you consume,
Yes.
how much you move, who you know,
Yeah.
so the groups you're hanging out with,
Yeah.
and what you know, which is more like your outlook, what you know about yourself,
Sure.
and you know what makes you happy, and that's keeping your stress in check.
Yes.
Right?
And is this a perfect system? Is this a randomized controlled trial? No. And there have been some criticism. They say, well, it's about money. Dan Buhner wrote a book and he's got the series. Fine. You know what? But it doesn't take away from the fact that these are very real things. Some people say number 2 criticism is that, hey, these are self-reported ages. So yes, there's a theoretic possibility that maybe some of these 100-year-old people were 94 instead. That's possible. Having said that, it still has shown they're outperforming other normal societies.
Yeah.
Other people say, well, what about all the other blue zones?
I was going to say too, in addition, what I found that was omitted with all this is your genes, right?
Right.
What if these blue zones just, was it?
Yeah, genetics versus lifestyle.
Yeah, nature versus nurture.
But I think what has been shown in the last 20 years, kind of since you started looking, though, is that some of these blue zones are shrinking.
They are.
Because their genetics haven't changed, but their lifestyle has changed because they got introduced to ultra-processed food and laziness.
In come your epigenetics.
Yes.
All right, so I think it's worth watching that
Yeah.
show. It was
I think it's super
entertaining.
interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And more importantly, you can get something from those blue zones.
Yes.
If you can take a little bit of that blue zone lifestyle and incorporate it into your busy, hectic life or lazy lifestyle, whatever it is, that may help you live healthier and live longer.
There you go. Now you know. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to our channel, check out our other videos, send them to a friend if you think this is useful, and also check out our podcast that we started.
And remember, you are in charge of your own health.
See you next time.